And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to analyze the real estate here in Canada, Toronto, and all over the US to see what might be the best option for you and me. We're going to look at multiplexes, Airbnbs, single family homes, including condos. So let's jump right into this. Welcome back to my passive income investment. Like today, we might try the Grant Cardone thing, and we're going to look at multiplex buildings. We're going to look at condos, prices per square foot. We're going to analyze all of this on my computer to actually show you guys the deals and what's going on. Because in my last video, I was kind of battering up the Canadian economy here because the government's issuing $40 billion to help first-time home buyers, that if you come up with 5% down, they'll cover the rest of it. We have interest rates going down. Here the average interest rate I think is 2.9% for accredited, coming from the bank kind of money investments. Usually interest rates go up, not down, but because of the economy we currently sit in, they're trying to help it out a little more by lowering the interest rates. We're going to see if any of this makes sense. But looking at Toronto, guys, the average square foot of a property is about $1,000 per square foot. So if you're looking at about a 500 square foot condo, it's going to cost about $500,000, which is crazy, guys. Las Vegas is one that I look at a lot because I can't get over the numbers there, but we're talking about $165 per square foot on average. Just think about that for a second. That's in USDs, but compare that to Toronto and your jaw kind of hits the floor. Manhattan, New York, obviously one of the most compact places in New York, which is one of the craziest places, looking at $1,773 per square foot on average. That's crazy. We're going to go over my computer. I'm going to show you guys these deals in a second. Then we're going to look at San Francisco here. We got $1,185 per square foot. And then we got Los Angeles, which is becoming really popular. A lot of people have been moving to Los Angeles, which currently has a buy rating of $451 on average per square foot. But I really want to go take a look at all these different deals. It's easier to show you guys on the computer so I can actually show you the homes, kind of run some numbers for you and see if any of this makes sense to you. And then you can always let me know in the comment section below what you think. If you're buying a house, are you a first-time home buyer like me? I would love to know, but come on over, guys. Let's check this out. I think this is a really fun experiment before I run off to work. Before we start looking and analyzing the actual deals and what's going on here, I just really quickly want to show you what I like to do is look at the average square footing per price. So what are you paying per square foot? And then what I like to do is see what the average rent is to see if the numbers can make sense in certain areas. And trust me, some of the numbers make really, really good sense in certain areas, which I'm going to explain to you in a second here. But it's always nice to look up what the average price of rent is in Toronto. And I don't think this really justifies too much of it because trust me, if you're living downtown, you're usually paying about $2,100 a month for rent, but I'm gonna say that the average rent, yes, in Canada here, if you look for like basement apartments and stuff and just basically one bedroom apartments, you're not really paying much more than about $1,200 to $1,000 to about $1,500 plus your utilities and stuff on top of that. Vegas is one that I talked about a lot, which is why I want you to pay attention here. But look at Manhattan. The average rent in Manhattan is $3,600 a month. San Francisco here, we got the average rent is absolutely astronomical apparently, which is $3,933, which is a 9.69 increase from last year, which was an average rent of $3,500. So San Francisco ain't cheap, baby. And then we're looking, what do we got here? I already looked up Los Angeles, did I not? $1,763 for Los Angeles. The numbers do seem to make sense. We're talking about $1,100 to $1,200 a month for rent in Las Vegas. And again, remember what I told you the average price per square foot was? Now look at the rent. The rent is pretty much the same as you're going to rent in Toronto or the surrounding area of Toronto. And trust me, I've looked up apartments. You can just go on Kijiji. You can find places for $1,000 to $2,000 a month, varying depending on how close you want to live to the downtown core. But just think about that. $1,000 per square foot, and all you're going to be able to get is $1,000 to $2,000 a month Canadian. But in Las Vegas, you're only going to be paying about $165 per square foot. The average rent is $1,100 to $1,200. So just think about that for a little while, guys. And this is how I like to look at real estate because it's going to let you find the best areas where you know you're going to get the best cap rate. But let's just take a quick peek at some of the actual deals that are going on around here. So here's rent in Toronto, just to give you a quick idea what it would cost you to rent anywhere in the downtown core. So here we're looking from $60,000 to $19,000 a month. If we move farther up north, obviously you're gonna see $1,900 to $35,000, $2,100 to $38,000. So we can see that like real estate is really expensive here. So let's find a half decent cheap apartment, shall we? You're not gonna be anywhere near the downtown, but here we can see we can get apartments for $1,600. $2,100, $19,000, like anything in this area is just insane. So let's go with this one here. So we're looking $1,850 to $1,950. So this would be really nice. This seems to make sense. We got a 3-unit deal for $1,950 here. And again, these are just rent. Remember that. This is just for renting, guys. So if you're going out and you want to rent yourself an apartment, this is what it's going to cost you on average, but at least you're getting about 800 square footing. That's not actually that bad per the price. If it was downtown, let me show you. Your square footage is probably going to cut in half somewhere. Like say we're going to go right downtown here. Right next to the Don Valley. Maybe we'll go to a nice area here. So let's say right here, boom, 2 units. So here you only get 600 square feet, 600 to 700, and you're paying way more
per price. Just look at how fast that number changes as you do like a 15-minute drive closer to the downtown core. But that's just Toronto. Now let's look at what they actually sell for. So here we're looking at like crappy little home condos for like $648,000. We've got $500,000 for this guy here, which is in Scarborough, which isn't actually in the downtown core. We're talking downtown core. Again, look at how much the rent is at around $2,000, $2,200 a month. And the average condo down here, when we're looking, guys, the deals are absolutely astronomical. Like we're talking millions, right? So maybe let's click this one here and see what's going on over here. Can I click on that? So let's take a look at some of these unit deals right here. So here's look at average condo, guys. We're right downtown, and we're right against the Gardiner Expressway here, and we're talking. Here's like some half decent prices though. I mean, for 700,000, 800,000, 5 to 6. So look, average square footage, like I said, guys, here's 800 square foot on average. You're paying about 700,000. So there's some deals that aren't too terrible, but still the average price is about $1,000 a square foot, especially when we start averaging it out with these downtown core condos. When we can see that you're really paying a premium for some of these. But it's kind of interesting. I've ran the numbers on these, and like I said, you're basically just covering the rent. So what I did here was I went to the mortgage calculator. We basically took the average interest rate that I got from Royal Bank at 2.9% on a $500,000 condo over 25 years. And you can just run the numbers here real quick, and we can see that the average mortgage payment is going to be $2,340. So even just based on that alone, guys, try and imagine that if you're only paying $2,200 for rent, like you're literally finding a way just to cover these numbers. So you're going to have to come up with a bigger down payment to make this make sense, because nothing really makes sense here, which is what I was saying in my last video when I got a lot of heat, because a lot of people were telling me, oh, I can find nice homes around for less than $500,000 and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but run the numbers even on the places where homes don't cost $500,000. Figure out what the rent is there and then compare it like this, because essentially what we're trying to do is find a way to make 5 or 10% on our down payment after we've paid the mortgage. And in Toronto, that doesn't exist anymore from what I can tell. And if it does, it is far and few in between. But let's just keep analyzing here. So here's homes in Toronto. I told you guys that the average home in Toronto costs $1.8 to $2 million for a decent home. This is a decent home. Like, this is a really nice home. Anywhere else in the world that isn't any major city would probably cost about $500,000, because this is like a crazy nice home, right? Here's a really tiny home, still pretty decent home though. But as we run through these, guys, you can see if the numbers drop down to 700,000 or 800,000, you're not going to be in the downtown. You're going to be nowhere near downtown, and you're going to be still paying 800,000 to $1 million for what looks like nothing. Like, we're talking flats here. Look at this, is like a normal house. Look at this for 4.1 million. Of course, it's a nice house, but for 4.1 million, guys, you're only getting 3,500 square feet. Like, just look at the numbers. They just don't make sense. 800,000 for 1,100 square feet. Like, come on. Here's an $750,000 home. Can't see the square footage on that one. But what we're looking here, because I'm looking for investment property, I'm looking for multiplexes that I can rent out. So we're going to analyze those real quick as well. Look at this palace here. Where is this? This is only 2.8 million in Mount Pleasant. I don't know where that is. Mount Pleasant Drive. Don't know where that is, but my goodness, I'd buy this. But I wonder if this is just one piece. Look at the size of this beauty here. For 2.8 million, my friends. My goodness, my goodness. But if we want to live in the ghetto and live in a little shack like this, I mean, we still pay 800,000. I mean, it's only 700 square feet to 1100. I hate the way it says 7 to 1,100 square feet. What the hell does that even mean? But we can see, guys, look, 700 square feet, you're paying $1,000 square footing. Here's another one here for $1 million, this little box looking building. Kind of interesting, isn't it? But let's look at some other deals across the world, shall we? So in Las Vegas, guys, let's see what $500,000 gets you. Well, it gets you a really nice looking house. And look at the square footage we're getting here. We're getting almost 3,000 square feet for $500,000. US, mind you, there's some conversions here. That's only 450 though. So here we got another one, 283. You guys can just check this out. Like, I love Vegas because the numbers seem to make sense here. Burst the rent. Every time I run the numbers, the average rate of return is 5 to 10%, but I'm sure I'm missing some stuff. You're going to have to look into like foreign income tax if I do end up making a decision to buy a property in Las Vegas. But I'm just saying, guys, like, look at the numbers here. 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,000 square feet for $350,000. Like, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Like, there's nothing wrong with these numbers here. When I run the numbers and you look at the rent, like, you're making half decent rent. The problem with Vegas is the turnover is pretty high here, because the people mainly work late jobs and some of the jobs don't last. So there's a lot of people in and out constantly. So trying to find full tenants might be a challenge. But I figure if you look into Henderson or something, or one of the nicer areas in Vegas, it's not like on the strip where well, if you want the strip, you're probably going to do Airbnb. But if you want like some stability and not having to manage too much of it, you're probably going to want some stable tenants, which means you're probably going to want to live somewhere in Henderson or somewhere up in one of the nicer areas that are on the outskirts of the Strip. But either way, guys, just look at those numbers. But I've ran some numbers on it, guys, and essentially the average rent, like I said, if you take the average rent here for Las Vegas, which is $1,100 to $1,200, and then we times that out over a 12-month period, we're bringing about $13,200 a year. Over a 25-year mortgage, you're looking at $330,000. So you're definitely paying it back quite conveniently. So you can get something half decent, and if you can find a better deal or something that you can fix up, imagine what your rate of return could be on the rent. But let's just keep looking here, guys. So let's look at some multifamily plexes. Let's try the Grant Cardone thing, which is what I recommend the most. But when we take a look here, guys, I've run some numbers on these as well, but they're so far and few in between. And look what a multiplex family unit in Toronto is going to cost you here, about $2.4 million for 6-bed, 4-bath. Just think about that. 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom, guys. Multifamily unit. It's $2.4 million. I run some numbers on these guys too, which I'll show you in a quick sec here, guys. But there is not much to offer in Toronto for multifamily units, and the duplexes are just way too expensive. So you want to try and find something that's at least 8 doors, like Grant Cardone says, but they just don't exist. But look, here's another 6-bed, 2-bath, and this one's only under $200,000. Look at that beauty right there. There's the multiplex we want. That's a fixer-upper for you. It's 15. How do you jam 6 bedrooms in 1,500 square feet? It'd be neat to see how tight that house is. Obviously, there's just not a lot of multifamily deals, and if they are, they're not going to be anywhere near the downtown core. Niagara Falls might be a good place to start looking for units as well. That's another place that I need to start opening my mind up to. I think that would be a fun place to explore. My parents were just there where my aunt lives, and we can see, guys, that the numbers start making a lot more sense for 4-bed, 3-bath. I mean, look at what we're getting, and it's only $500,000. That's not actually that terrible. But if we scroll around, guys, you really have to start examining the areas. But all I'm saying is Toronto doesn't make any sense right now. I think if we start trying to move out, like we don't want to live in Timmins, Ontario, if you don't know where that is. These are really rural areas. But there's just not a lot of multiplexes, which sucks because ideally you want to get into a multiplex where we can run the numbers and they'll make sense. So let's take this one for example, 6-bed, 4-bath. Remember that house that's falling apart is only $200,000 and it has the same 6 beds. We aren't going to do a virtual tour of this place, but I've ran some numbers on it. We went through the mortgage calculator with this, and then we can see that things aren't that great because you're going to have to put that 20% down. You're going to be looking at about a $1.84 million mortgage with land transfer and blah, blah, blah. Let's scroll down here and see what we got. So total cash required, you're going to have to come up with about $500,000 here in Canada, which is a little crazy. And then your total per month is going to be about $10,000 a month. So the question is, could you get $10,900 a month for this kind of unit? Question is, could you get $10,000 a month off a 6-plex unit? Maybe if you rent it with Airbnb. I don't know. The numbers, like I said, if you really push for it, you can make 3 or 4% on your return, but it's so iffy, guys. It's so iffy at how tight those numbers are. I don't like tight numbers. I like loose numbers that already have tenants, and I'd have to call to see if these places even have tenants. There's a lot of negotiation that would have to go in on these, but I'm going to continue to look at some of these units. I just really want to give you guys a quick look into this kind of properties and the insights, what's going on here in Canada and around the U.S. while I continue my journey to look for a home that I might buy. God knows where that's going to be, but I'm always here to analyze. And this is just a quick update. I'm going to do some more videos actually breaking down the numbers exactly so you guys can understand how I'm coming up with all this, because this probably looks really confusing for me to quickly analyze, but I just don't have time today, so I'm sorry. But I will sit down and fully analyze some of these deals and show you guys exactly what your cap rate is and your rate of return is on your down payment, so long as you can keep the place rented. So stay cool, stay awesome. I look forward to chatting to you guys real soon.